So, to refresh our memory, and so to be able to understand what's going on here, let's just remind ourselves the 4 custodian. This whole entire sugya, this whole entire subject is based on the level of liability that exists by the 4 types of custodians. We've got first the shomer chinam. Shomer chinam is an unpaid custodian, and because he's unpaid, he's doing a favor, therefore he has the lowest level of liability. He is liable for anything of pshia, anything due to his negligence. So if, let's say, he took the thing and he dropped it on the floor, this is mamash pshia, then he's going to be, and it broke, he's going to be liable to pay. More than that, which is the second level of liability, gneva va'aveda, theft or loss, the shomer chinam is exempt, is not liable. So if it got stolen or it got lost, it wasn't due to his negligence. He did everything possible to keep and safeguard the object properly. He's exempt. How much more so the third level of liability, which is unseen, which is any damage, anything that happened out of control, such as it broke, it died, the computer broke just out of nowhere, the cow died just out of nowhere, the car broke just out of nowhere, just natural cause beyond your control, then of course a shomer chinam, an unpaid custodian, is not liable, is exempt from liability. Okay? Second type of custodian is the shomer sachar. He's a paid custodian. He's getting paid for it, let's say $25 an hour. Because he's getting paid, obviously it is expected from him a higher level of liability. That would mean that, of course, pshia, negligence, any damage due to his negligence, he'll be liable to pay. That's of course because even the unpaid custodian he's liable for. But even the second level of liability, gneva and aveda, which is theft or loss, the shomer sachar is also going to be liable to pay for it. However, unseen, this is something that even the paid custodian is exempt of liability. It's out of control. He's getting paid for it. He did everything that he could in order to safeguard the object, anything that is expected from him. Beyond that, it isn't expected. If the cow died, he is exempt. He's not liable for it. Then you've got a third type, and that is the socher, the renter. Renter means simply someone rented from you an object. He rented a car, he rented, in this case, a cow, he rented something. So he's a renter, he is liable to, he's a renter, he's a custodian, meaning it is expected from him to at least safeguard, to at least keep the object and return the object to its owner. How much liability the renter has, that's a question in the Gemara, whether the socher, whether the renter is considered like a unpaid custodian or like a paid custodian. Meaning, pshia for sure is liable, negligence. Unseen, which is damage beyond his control, for sure is exempt, not liable. The question is about in the middle, theft and loss. Is he not liable, such as unpaid custodian, or is he liable, such as a paid custodian? Finally, you have the borrower, the shoel. Shoel is kol ana shelo. All the benefit is his. I borrow from you a bike, and I don't pay for it. It's a favor you do it to me. I'm borrowing it. I'm allowed to use it. Good. Therefore, I have the highest level of liability. I need to return the bike to you as is. And I'll be liable not only pshia, gneva va'aveda, but even unseen, even any damage that was done beyond my control, beyond anyone's control. Okay? This is the 4 types of custodian with their level of liability. Let's go to today's lesson. So, here's the situation. Shomer shemasar leshomer. Meaning, I am a custodian.
Which one?
So let's say I'm a shomer chinam. I'm an unpaid custodian. So to make the case clear, Nir is the owner, and Nir owns a car. And Nir says, could you please keep the car in your home, in your parking? I say, sure. Favor, I'm not keeping the car. Obviously, by the way, one of the laws that we saw previously is that a shomer chinam is not allowed to use the car. Okay? It's going to remain in my parking until you return, until I'm returning the car to you. In the meantime,
And lo kolana.
and lo kalana, it's pure favor, lishma. In the meantime, let's say I have to go on vacation, unexpectedly I have to travel. I said to Lev, would you mind becoming a shomer for that car? That car belongs to Nir. Nir is unaware of this. But I have to travel, so would you mind to be a shomer? And for that matter, I'm going to pay you for it. I'm going to pay you $100 a day to keep the car safe in your parking. And something happened to the car while by you. So let's say, to make the case simple, let's say the car broke, the engine died. All of a shalom, going to say Kaddish on the car, the engine died. It did nothing. In fact, it didn't even turn just in your possession. It was its time, but it happened to be by you. That's called unseen, beyond control. So I'm a paid custodian, and you are I'm an unpaid custodian and you are a paid custodian. By the way, both would be exempt of liability in this case. If it happened by me, I would have been exempt of liability. And if it was a shomer sachar, meaning you, for example, you're also exempt from liability towards me. The question is, am I liable to pay back the car to Nir?
No. It's unforeseen. So no. It's the highest level of liability. So.
Okay, so you're saying at first glance, patu, right? Because here we're speaking about something that wasn't due to your negligence, to my negligence, right? It died. Or perhaps, is there any other thoughts that you can think of that would make me liable to pay?
There wasn't any pshia, so no reason to pay.
So here's the thing. The fact that I gave it to somebody else without your consent, maybe that is the pshia. Whatever happened then,
Does this consider priya?
in fact I can even say that Nir could claim by you, in your parking lot, the way it's built and whatever, I asked from you to keep it, and there the engine would have maybe preserved. By you, it was in an underground parking, and there was no air, there was no this, no that. By you, I don't know. It happened. I would have never Near claim you would have never. I mean, I'm giving you an example of a car, which doesn't work that much. You see, like parking second floor, first floor. But a cow, for example,
Something that could have been foreseen, or something that...
meaning near can
could
claim.
have
In the case of a cow, let's say the cow by me, would have survived. By you, it died. Near can claim. By you, it's, let's say, into the mountain, there is air, whatever. You live in the city, maybe because of that it died. So in other words, the pshia is the fact that I gave you the cow to keep without the consent of Nir. That's the question over here. So as you see, there is two sides to the story over here. There is two opinions.
We discussed cases of renting to a renter and stuff like that. You're allowed to... Oh, okay. No, you're
Very
not
good.
allowed to.
Very good, Nir. Very good. Very, very, very good. You're right. It touches what we discussed. So now you understand why all of a sudden we're speaking about that. Very good. You will see that we're going to have two opinions. And the Gemara will question one of the two based on the case that we saw in our Mishnah. Not today. Bezrat Hashem next week. But as you can see, this is a typical Gemara style. So the Gemara brings you a situation. It brings you a case. Two opinions. One says such, one says differently. And then the Gemara says, hey, I've got a Mishnah here that we studied earlier. And thinking about the Mishnah, it seems that the Mishnah supports one's opinion and goes against the other one's opinion. And this is how the discussion begins. Okay? So let's first see the situation, the case, and then the opinions. Hi, Harry.
Hi, Rabbi.
How are you?
Page? Okay, how are you?
Good.
You get my...
Page 36A1 at the bottom of the page.
There is no question. It's so clear between you and me. So clear. So the question, the discussion is about whatever the owner
Correct.
can.
Correct.
So
Like, you didn't do anything wrong, right? You versus me, you've got no liability, that's for sure. You have no liability whatsoever. You got nothing to worry about.
Nothing
okay?
towards.
No,
nothing
because
towards the owner.
you've got the level of liability. It was beyond your control, unseen, you patur. Now the question is about me. Am I liable to pay to the owner? Okay, let's take a look. The Gemara now discusses the liability of a shomer that creates a secondary custodianship without authorization. Itmar was said, shomer shemasar le shomer. You see 36a1. Regarding a custodian that transferred a deposit to another custodian without obtaining permission from the owner. So Rav says, Potter. Rav says the first custodian is exempt from liability for any loss for which he would have been exempt had he guarded the object himself. Meaning, if the custodian had he guarded himself, the object would have been exempt from liability. So too, if he gave it to somebody else, and that particular thing happened, he will be also exempt from liability.
This is Rav.
This is Rav.
Okay.
Rabbi Yochanan says, Chayam. And Rabbi Yochanan says, he is obligated to pay for even unavoidable loss, for which he would have been exempt had he guarded the pikadon himself. Okay? This is the argument between Rav and Rabbi Yochanan, and now the Gemara is going to explain their opinion in depth. The Gemara elaborates, Omar Abaye said, the time of the Rav, according to Rav's reasoning, Lo mi baya shomer chinam shemasar leshomer sachar. It is not necessary to state that an unpaid custodian that transferred the pikadon, the object, to a paid custodian, is not liable for unavoidable loss. Why? For he upgraded the watching of the object. Rather, Rav's point is that even a paid custodian that transferred the pikaron to an unpaid custodian, the gerue gara v'shmirato, thereby diminishing the watching of the object, potter is exempt from liability for unavoidable loss. My tama, what is the reason? Meaning, what is the reason that this unauthorized transfer is not considered a negligent act? Because he gave it to a mentally competent individual who could effectively safeguard the object. Meaning, you've got two scenarios. One scenario where you upgraded the watching, one scenario where you diminished the watching. So the Gemara wants to clarify and says that when Rav says that if me, the first custodian, transferred the object to a second custodian and something happened, meaning here we're speaking about unavoidable loss, unseen, beyond the control of anyone, says Rav, I am exempt to pay to the owner. Rav said that in both scenarios. Not only the scenario where it makes sense, meaning I am an unpaid custodian and you would be a paid custodian. And by giving it to you, I upgraded the level of watching. Because I am an unpaid custodian and I'm liable only for negligence, but not for gneva and aveda, theft or loss, and certainly not for unseen. You, as a paid custodian, are liable for gneva and aveda as well. So you are going to upgrade the safekeeping of that object. And something unavoidably happened, says Rav, for sure, of course, that I'm going to be exempt of liability because I have done anything. First of all, I kept it myself, and even when I transferred it to you, I made sure to upgrade the level of watching. That's one scenario. Comes Abaye and says even the other scenario, where I diminish the level of watching. For example, I am a paid custodian. So you would expect from me a level of liability, not just negligence, but gneva and aveda as well. A higher level of watching. I go ahead, I have something to do, I go ahead and I give it to Lev, and I say, Lev, could you do me a favor? Unpaid custodian. Now he is liable only for negligence, pshia, not for gneva and aveda. Now what happened to that cow, to that object? Unavoidable loss, unseen. So he's, of course, he's exempt of liability. What about me? So in a way, you would say, well, this is unseen. This is unavoidable loss. Or you would say, but I diminished the level of watching by giving it to you. Says it by irrelevant. What I did wasn't a negligence. That's the main point. What happened to it was unseen. What I did was not a negligence. So I'm exempt of liability. It is irrelevant if I upgraded the level of watching or diminished the level of watching. You have to look at two major factors. The number one factor is, was it a negligence on my part? Me, the initial shomer. Says Rav, no. Because they have Masare lebendat. I gave it over, whether it's a paid custodian, whether it's an unpaid custodian, I gave it to a mentally competent person, meaning a normal human being who is going to safeguard the basic level of watching an object. Therefore, this is not considered a pshia. This is not considered being negligent towards the object. Okay? That's the number one factor. Number two factor is what happened to the cow? What happened to the object? If it happened something, had it been by me, I would have been exempt of liability, such as unavoidable loss, such as unseen, then I am exempt of liability. Okay? However, of course, if had it been by me, I would have been liable. So of course I'll be liable to pay to you. For example, if I am a paid custodian, and you are an unpaid custodian, and it gets stolen. So you are exempt of liability because you're an unpaid custodian. So for me, you have no liability. But me, towards Neil, towards the owner, although the theft happened by you, not by me, I can say, well, by me, everything was okay. By Lev, it got stolen. No, had it been by me, I would have been liable. So too, even if it was by you, I have a responsibility towards the owner to pay him back. Here we're speaking about unavoidable loss, which, had it been by me, I would also be exempt of paying. Since I gave it to a bendat, I gave it to a normal person, meaning this is not considered for me, for my part, a negligence towards the object, therefore I am exempt of liability. Okay? This is Rav's opinion. Clear? Any questions?
I assume either unpaid or paid custodian are not allowed to rent it out or borrow it because the owner intention wasn't never to be used, right?
Very good. Very good. Yes, that's correct. That's correct. Because to use it, that's a whole different sphere, right? That's why the Gemara brings the examples of a shomer chinam, shemasa le-shomer sachar, or shomer sachar, shemasa le-shomer chinam.
But do they mention that it's not allowed to rent it out or borrow it somewhere?
Sure, definitely. It is not allowed, not exactly here in this daf, but in this Gemara, it is not allowed for either a shomer chinam or a shomer sachar to use it, or to give it to somebody else to use it.
Not even with a special permission?
Special permission is different. Then it would be an exception to the case. But a shomer chinam, by default, is not allowed to use it for his own purpose, and how much more so he's not allowed to give it to somebody else to use it. There will be a different question. What about the milk? Does the milk goes to the owner? And naturally, the answer would be yes. The milk belongs to the owner. The foot of the cow belongs to the owner. But using it would be to work with it, right? Not milking the cow.
So what is the reasoning of Rabbi Yochanan?
Oh, so that's why we have Abaye continues. Talmud de Rabbi Yochanan, and according to Rabbi Yochanan's reasoning, this is how it goes. Lo mibaya shomer sachar shemasa leshomer chinam. It's not necessary to state that a paid custodian that transferred the pikaron to an unpaid custodian, according to Rabbi Yochanan, committed a negligent act and is therefore liable for all losses, including losses beyond control. Because what is the negligence is not what happened. The negligence is that I transferred the object to somebody else. And in this case, the grue gara l'shmirato, since it diminished the watching of the object. But elafilu shomer chinam shemasa l'shomer sachar. Rather, Rabbi Yochanan's point is that even an unpaid custodian that transferred the pikaron to a paid custodian, here you would say, thereby upgrading the watching of the object. Nonetheless, says Rabbi Yochanan, chayav. He is obligated to pay for any loss. So the cow died by you, and you would say the unpaid custodian will be liable to pay to Neil, the owner, for what? True, I transferred the cow to you, but in this case I actually upgraded the watching. Says Rabbi Yochanan, it's not enough. The Omale, for the owner may tell him, meaning Neil tells me, Ein retzoni sheyehi pigdoni beyad acher. It is not my desire that my deposit shall be in another's hands. Therefore, even this transfer is considered a negligent act. Meaning, Neil has the right to say, I trusted you and the conditions around you to safeguard my object. As soon as you transfer to somebody else, which I don't necessarily count, trust, rely. Both could be the individual, could be the circumstance of where the object is going to be kept. I trust people in Richmond. Richmond, it's calm, nice, flat, nothing. Downtown, you give it to somebody who lives in downtown. There's all kind of things happening down. I would have never given it to somebody who lives downtown, right? There could be all kind of factors where the owner may say, although you'll say, well, this is nothing related to downtown that happened, or nothing related to Richmond, to Coquitlam. It's just died. It would have died anywhere. He could claim that the atmosphere, the stress, whatever happened to that cow may have been a factor. The fact that it was may not have been, but my trust was to you in your place, period. You've gave it over to somebody else, something happened. I consider that transfer a pshia, a negligent act by default, and therefore you're liable for anything that happened. This is Rabbi Yochanan's view.
Let's take the example of the car in Richmond and downtown. So I brought the car to Richmond and parked it in your parking lot for your safekeeping. And you're not allowed to use it at all. But the fact that you drove it to downtown to give it to Lev, you used it.
So it could be claimed that there was a use done. Very good question. So I would say, specifically to that particular case, I was very careful with that, and especially with in accordance with Jewish law. So I paid a towing truck for $125 to bring it, make sure not to touch the car at all, to bring it to Lev's.
I'll find another example.
Right, you're right that in certain example, there might be things that are not kosher and we'd have to, but that's why you have to use imagination in a case that it was done properly. Nothing was done to the actual object. Okay?
So the transfer is so dangerous. It's like opening to so many issues,
Yeah.
right? Just the transfer. Right?
Yeah, according to Rabbi Yochanan, just the transfer is an act of negligence. The will of the owner was, he could claim that. That's Rabbi Yochanan's opinion is. Okay. Second type of custodian is the shomer sachar. He's a paid custodian. He's getting paid for it, let's say $25 an hour. Because he's getting paid, obviously it is expected from him a higher level of liability. That would mean that, of course, pshia, negligence, any damage due to his negligence, he'll be liable to pay. That's of course because even the unpaid custodian he's liable for. But even the second level of liability, gneva and aveda, which is theft or loss, the shomer sachar is also going to be liable to pay for it. However, unseen, this is something that even the paid custodian is exempt of liability. It's out of control. He's getting paid for it. He did everything that he could in order to safeguard the object, anything that is expected from him. Beyond that, it isn't expected. If the cow died, he is exempt. He's not liable for it. Then you've got a third type, and that is the socher, the renter. Renter means simply someone rented from you an object. He rented a car, he rented, in this case, a cow, he rented something. So he's a renter, he is liable to, he's a renter, he's a custodian, meaning it is expected from him to at least safeguard, to at least keep the object and return the object to its owner. How much liability the renter has, that's a question in the Gemara, whether the socher, whether the renter is considered like a unpaid custodian or like a paid custodian. Meaning, pshia for sure is liable, negligence. Unseen, which is damage beyond his control, for sure he's exempt, not liable. The question is about in the middle, theft and loss. Is he not liable, such as unpaid custodian, or is he liable, such as a paid custodian? Finally, you have the borrower, the shoel. Shoel is kol ana shelo. All the benefits is his. I borrow from you a bike, and I don't pay for it. It's a favor you do it to me. I'm borrowing it. I'm allowed to use it. Good. Therefore, I have the highest level of liability. I need to return the bike to you as is. And I'll be liable not only pshia, gneva va'aveda, but even unseen, even any damage that was done beyond my control. And it broke, is going to be liable to pay. More than that, which is the second level of liability, gneva va'aveda, theft or loss, the shomer chinam is exempt, is not liable. So if it got stolen or it got lost, it wasn't due to his negligence. He did everything possible to keep and safeguard the object properly. He's exempt. How much more so the third level of liability, which is unseen, which is any damage, anything that happened out of control, such as it broke, it died, the computer broke just out of nowhere, the cow died just out of nowhere, the car broke just out of nowhere, just natural cause beyond your control, then of course a shomer chinam, an unpaid custodian, is not liable, is exempt from liability. So to refresh our memory, and so to be able to understand what's going on here, let's just remind ourselves the four custodian. It is all based, this whole entire sugya, this whole entire subject is based on the level of liability that exists by the four types of custodians. We've got first the shomer chinam. Shomer chinam is an unpaid custodian, and because he's unpaid, he's doing a favor, therefore he has the lowest level of liability. He is liable for anything of pshia, anything due to his negligence. So if, let's say, he took the thing and he dropped it on the floor, this is mamash pshia, then he's going